I'm JP Tong. I'm now in Kechara Forest Retreat in Malaysia, and welcome to today's Thursday Paranormal Tales. So today, as you can see, we have Pastor Niral again. This is part 3 of me interviewing Pastor Niral, because Pastor Niral has a lot of experiences with paranormal. Yeah, so let me see who's tuned in before we get started. Let me see. Go. Hi Coglan, thank you very much for tuning in. And we'll wait a few more seconds before you start telling your story. Hi Pastor Shin, thank you for tuning in. Elaine says, can't get enough paranormal stories from Pastor Niral. Yes. Yes, Elaine, I've actually just requested Pastor Niral to give us more details, so it's more exciting. Hi, David. Thank you, David Chu. Thank you very much for tuning in. Pastor Shin says it's so paranormal. The moment you guys came online, the rain stopped. Okay. Amos. Hi, Amos. Thank you very much for tuning in. Adele Tan? Is that how you say your name? Yes. I'm trying to get more stories from Pastor Niral. The uncensored ones would be nice. Yes, the uncensored ones. Hi, Lily. Thank you for tuning in. Hi, King Hoy. Hi, Batku. Thank you very much for tuning in. Corinne. Okay, so today we will continue with what we left off last week, and we will talk more about your black magic experience, right? So you mentioned that there's something about a nature spirit?
Yes. When I was studying the black magic, which was in Louisiana in the States, the woman lived in a very old farmhouse.
Yeah.
And this farmhouse was said to have been built around a tree originally, a very, very old tree. So where that tree had been originally was now a corridor, a central corridor in the house.
Right.
So this corridor ran from one end of the house all the way to the other. And the house was completely made of wood.
Okay.
Because it was very, very old. And so this corridor was said to be quite powerful because it was where this one tree used to be.
Okay.
So the woman I was studying with, she had realized that there was a nature spirit living there, because it used to live in the tree, but the tree is no longer there anymore.
Okay.
So it was now living in the corridor.
All right.
In her house.
All right.
So she had one huge shrine set up to this particular spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in a closed cabinet. She would never open it. She'd only open it like once a year to change various offerings that she had inside, and then she'll close it again. She kept it locked.
Okay.
And when I arrived there, out of all of the spirits that she had around the house and all the altars and everything, I never felt that spirit. It just so happened that when I was there, because I was there quite a long period of time, it had been a year since the last time she opened it, so she opened it up to change the offerings. I wasn't allowed anywhere near it at that point. And this nature spirit is supposedly very, very good for healing work, especially if you're using herbs or plants and things for healing. You would ask this particular spirit for assistance, but also for using herbs and plants for black magic.
Okay.
And she had told me that he's not very friendly. So that day that she made the offerings, she basically told me to get lost. So I went to the shopping mall and had some fun, and then I came back in the evening. She'd finished what she needed to do. And the next day, she went out to do some shopping. Can't remember what exactly the reason why she went. I think it was shopping, and I was left alone in the house. So the living room of the house, there's sofas, there's chairs. So I was sitting on one chair and I was was playing a computer game on my laptop,
Okay.
and that living room, it opens up into that corridor because all of the rooms in that house open up into this central corridor.
Okay.
So I could see into the corridor
All right.
through the I mean, the door was open, so I could see, they had the door frame, and I could see the other side of the corridor. And I was playing on my computer game, and then I just heard this grumbling, and I was like, what is this? Because I'd never heard this sound before. It was like a sort of thing. And then I kind of felt a vibration in the air. And then all I heard was stomp, stomp, stomp. It's just like somebody, because the whole house is wood.
Okay.
So when you walk, you can hear it.
All right.
You can hear it in the whole house if you're walking anywhere. All I heard is this stomp, stomp. And it's just like, at that moment I started getting freaked out. So I kind of closed my laptop.
Okay.
And I put it down. And then I just kind of sat there frozen because it sounded like the stomping was getting closer and closer and closer.
Okay.
So then I realized the sound was coming from the corridor.
Okay.
So I looked towards the corridor, and because the door was open, I could see, through to the other side of the corridor. And all of a sudden, I see this hand that comes up, like somebody's walking, but like over-exaggerated walking.
Alright.
So I see this hand first, and it's huge, probably like 3 or 4 times the size of my own hand.
Oh wow.
And it is hairy. It's completely covered in hair.
Could you see through it? Was it?
No,
Or was it opaque?
It was solid.
Solid. Wow. Okay.
And then it continued walking across the corridor. And it was so tall that I couldn't see its head in from the door frame.
Mhm.
So its head was hidden on the other side, so I couldn't see it. But it looked exactly like Bigfoot.
Serious. Wow. Okay.
And it basically just walked very, very slowly from one side to the other side and then disappeared. But at that point, I was getting completely freaked out because there was a spirit in the house that I'd never felt before.
Okay.
2, it looks like Bigfoot, and it's and it's like 3 or 4 times the size of a man.
Okay.
And I didn't see its head. All I saw was its like neck down.
So you saw the entire body from your room.
Yeah,
Why don't you stick your head out and take a look?
because it has a very, very. I'm not you.
Okay.
It had a very, very strong, heavy energy to it. And seeing something that solid
Okay.
and that powerful kind of walk, kind of literally, I just froze in my seat. Then it got to the end of the corridor, and I'm still frozen in my seat at this point. I hear it. I hear it turn around, and then walk back this way. So
Towards you.
Towards the room.
Your room. Okay.
So once it came back, and I could see it again through the doorway, and this time it didn't continue walking. It stopped, and then it turned to face as if it was going to come inside the room.
Okay.
And at that point, I could see very, very clearly what it looked like. It literally looks like Bigfoot, big, brown, hairy, like
Being.
muscular, very, very strong. And then I think my adrenaline kicked in, so I jumped out my chair.
Okay.
And because we're in the south of America,
Okay.
and in rural America, everybody owns a gun.
Okay.
So I knew where my teacher kept her gun.
Okay.
So I kind of grabbed the gun, which was in a drawer,
Okay.
and I kind of pointed it at the being.
Mhm.
And then it made a growling sound again.
Okay.
So I lost my nerve using a gun because I've never used a gun before.
Okay.
So I lost my nerve, and then I literally ran out the house.
But it was at the doorway. So
Yes.
how could you run out of the house?
It was the doorway to the corridor.
Okay. So there was another door.
Yeah, the room that I was in faced outwards,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. and it was, I don't know, out of all the spirits that I've ever encountered, that one was felt the most powerful.
How do you know that it's a spirit and not Bigfoot? Like actually Bigfoot.
If at that point I didn't know that it wasn't Bigfoot.
Okay.
But then talking with the woman who was my teacher, she said no, what you saw wasn't a real Bigfoot. It was the spirit, the nature spirit.
Oh wow.
And then So then I'd run out the house, and I actually ran a little way down the street, and by that time the woman was driving back. So, she's like, what the hell are you doing in the middle of the street? Excuse my language. And, so I told her, and then she just started laughing and brought me back into the house.
Wow.
That was the first and the only time that I saw that particular spirit in her house.
Okay.
Years later, after I've come to Kechara, I told Rinpoche of this particular encounter, and he said actually it was an extremely old nature spirit.
Wow.
And it had been tied to the land, and it was so old that the way it manifested was quite slow and bulky, because it's an extremely old but yet very powerful spirit that lives there. So it's just very slow and very bulky.
It's like a troll
Almost.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, but it was so literally the air becomes thicker, and there's like this vibration in the air. Because usually when I feel spirits or something, I usually feel cold. But this one was completely different. This one was hot. It's a very like humid kind of feeling. When you go outside and it's you get hit by that humidity.
Yeah.
It was like that.
Oh, that's interesting. And that was the only time that you
That
saw.
was the only time that I saw that particular spirit.
And did your teacher then say why? I mean, like, does it roam in the house all the time?
No, she said that was the first time that she, when I told her that I saw him walking up and down, she said that was the first time that she'd heard him of walking up and down, because usually he just stays in that one place where the tree originally was,
Okay.
where his cabinet is, his shrine cabinet.
So do you know why? Why he was like all of a sudden walking around
No
and
idea.
growling at you?
No idea.
Were you doing something?
I was playing a video game on my computer.
Okay. Well, Sharon asked, did the Bigfoot thingy have a smell? Apparently Bigfoots have a distinctive smell. Did it have a smell?
Wet earth. Like it's just rained outside, and you have that really strong smell of
the soil.
Of the soil.
Oh,
It smelled like that.
Okay. Interesting. Well, if any one of you have actually seen something similar, it'd be great if you can also share at the comment section. Yeah. Wow, that's very exciting. If I were you, I'll just stuck my head and just take a look, and grab my phone and take some pictures. That'll be me. Okay, and then you mentioned that you have a spirit that didn't like you.
Oh yes.
What's this about?
Okay, so the woman I learned from, she obviously had altars to spirits everywhere in her house, because she worked with a lot of different spirits.
Okay.
And one of them was, she called him he kind of his altar was basically a Chinese dragon. It was a statue of a Chinese dragon, and that was her representation of who he was. So there'd be candles and everything and offerings around him, and he was in the main living room. So whenever I used to go into the main living room, I used to feel extremely uneasy, just on edge. Any time that I went in there, I felt on edge. And one day she told me that, he doesn't like you. And I was thinking, why doesn't he like me? I haven't done anything to him.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've met him, and he just doesn't like me. So there was one time when she had guests over. So I was staying in one of her guest rooms.
Okay.
So she gave one of her guest rooms to the people who had come to stay. So I ended up sleeping on the floor in the living room.
Okay.
So as I was asleep one night, I just hear things moving in the room, like scraping against a hard surface.
Uh-huh.
And it was this particular spirit moving things on his altar. So the dragon statue was kept sideways on a shelf,
Okay.
and he was moving. The statue was literally moving, inch by inch.
You saw it.
Yeah. Moving inch by inch
Okay.
to show me his mouth, because he really didn't like me. And then the
But
candles.
how do you know that he didn't like you? Was it a feeling you got, or you heard him?
One, it was the feeling of being uneasy whenever
Okay.
I went into the living room. Secondly, is the woman. She told me that he just doesn't like you, because she could communicate with him and
Okay.
things like that. And so he moved the statue, so the mouth of the dragon was now facing me, and that was a kind of sign that he doesn't like me, like he was gonna like attack or
Okay.
something. And then at that moment, when his mouth faced me completely, all the candles on his altar fell off
Oh wow.
and went out. And
And you were trying to sleep in the living room,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you saw this.
yeah, and
So what did you do?
I kind of didn't do anything. I just kind of like got up and kind of made a huffing noise. I don't know why or what.
Huffing noise.
Like, and then I kind of grabbed my stuff and then I went to sleep in another room.
Wow, you were not amused?
Yeah, because I don't know. He just didn't like me, and that got my back up. Why don't you like me? I'm not gonna like you then. So it was. So I kind of went to sleep in another room, and then the next day, she comes out and she says, "What the hell happened to my altar?
Uh-huh.
Everything's moved. The candles have, are on the floor,
Okay.
and these candles in her house, all the altars have candles on, and they're burning constantly, because
These are real candles,
a real
and not
candle.
the electrical, the
not
battery
electrical,
operated.
a real
Okay.
candle. Because one of the offerings that she gives them is a 7-day candle.
All right.
So the candles are about this big, about this thick, and they burn for like 7 to 8 days.
Okay.
And so she changed them on a weekly basis, but they're constantly on.
Okay.
And so there was about 5 or 6 of them that had just completely fallen off the altar and gone out.
Oh wow.
So then I told her what happened, and she's like, "He really doesn't like you."
Did you see how that spirit looked like though?
No.
Did you sense
kind of.
how it looked like?
I couldn't really sense what he looked like,
Mm-hmm.
but there was another incident with him. This happened after the sleeping in the living room incident. The woman's the house, they had a veranda the entire way round, and in the ceiling of the veranda grew wasps and bees' nests.
Inside the house.
Inside the house.
All right.
And they were friendly. Both the wasps and the bees were friendly.
Okay.
And she didn't mind them buzzing around the house or whatever. Sometimes they would go into some rooms, they wouldn't go into other rooms.
Okay.
So she probably had about 10 or 15 wasps and bees nests around the
Okay.
veranda. And usually they didn't do anything to you. You just walk in and out, and if they're flying, they kind of just fly away. It's kind of surreal coming from the city when you don't really live with bees and wasps and stuff. And she also had a bee farm. She kept bees for the honey.
Okay.
And this spirit that didn't like me, he was known to do things with bees.
Okay.
So he worked through bees.
Okay.
So the spells and things that you'd cast with him, you'd always use bee products like honey or beeswax or something along that line.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one day that I was helping her mow the lawn around the house, and I had a ring on, and that ring was given to me by my brother, and I never took it off.
Okay.
It was just kind of a very sentimental thing. And then all of a sudden I felt this uneasiness again. So it was the same feeling that I got every time I walked into the living room, but this time I was outside. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, one of the beehives, which was on the
the
the ceiling of the
Mhm.
veranda fell and obviously smashed. So when it smashed, there's a whole bunch of angry bees. And I was the closest thing to them,
To the bees.
so they came straight after me. And Louisiana being hot and muggy, as like
Mhm.
Malaysia is, I was quite sweaty. So at that point, the first place that the bees attacked me was my hand. So what happened was, as they were attacking me, I kind of went like that to get them off. So that ring basically came off
Okay.
and flew into the field. That I didn't know, I couldn't find it after that. And so after I kind of like, I'm screaming, I'm shouting because I'm being attacked by a swarm of bees.
Mhm.
So I managed to get back in the house with only a couple of bee stings. And then she kind of comes running out, to see what's going on and everything. And then she said it's very strange because that's the first time a beehive has ever fallen.
Okay.
And then she kind of looked at me, and then she kind of took me into the living room. And she held my hand. She dragged me in front of that altar to that particular spirit. And she basically started to have a go at this particular spirit and
Mhm.
tell him off. Why are you attacking Nero? Why are you doing this? Why
Yeah.
are you doing this? And then after about 5 or 10 minutes, she turned around to me and said, the spirit said that he didn't like you, so he wanted you to lose something that you value, which is why the first thing kind of he attacked was my hand, and in the process of that, I lost my ring.
Oh wow.
And then she basically told him, do not go after Niral again. Do not,
Okay.
go near him. Do not try anything. Do not try and do anything again.
Okay.
And I was a bit taken aback because she was literally screaming and shouting at the altar.
Oh wow.
And
And did you hear the spirit talking?
no, I didn't hear him, but I felt a coolness.
Uh-huh.
And when she first started, that uneasy feeling got really, really strong. But by the time she'd finished and she calmed down,
Mhm.
I didn't feel anything again.
Okay.
And every time I went into the living room, I never felt that uneasy feeling again.
Oh wow. And you never found your ring?
Never found my ring. I searched for it for days because I was quite
Yeah.
attached to it sentimentally.
Oh, this is really strange.
Yeah, never found it.
And it's strange that the bees only attacked your hand and not swarm
Yeah,
around you,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh. Well, that's really interesting. I've never heard of this.
Mm.
That's like in the movies, right?
A little
It
bit,
sounds
a little
like
bit.
like it's in a movie.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. And you wrote about all this in your recent article.
This one I haven't read about.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any questions so far? Otherwise, we will continue. So then there were a few more, black magic. Yeah.
Thinking about trying to play on him next time.
Okay. These related. So then thereafter, you met our teacher,
Yeah.
Ten Rinpoche. So can you tell us more about how you met Ten Rinpoche and why you flew all the way to Malaysia to meet
Okay.
Ten Rinpoche?
So once I kind of stopped practicing black magic, I moved back to the UK, moved back where my parents are, and then I realized that what I was doing wasn't entirely correct, and especially because I had felt a lot of the energy coming from some of these spirits. Like last week, I was talking about the werewolf spirits. Did I talk about
The
that?
werewolf.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they were quite vicious.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of knew that there's something a bit weird here, but maybe I shouldn't be doing it. So basically, one by one, I started getting rid of all the spirits that I had contact with, that I was in communication with.
How did you get rid of them?
Within the black magic practice itself, there are different ways of getting rid of different spirits. So if you have a particular altar to a spirit, you would go in front of the altar, ask them that you're no longer going to be making offerings to them, and you'd literally remove the altar from your house.
Okay.
So I basically got rid of all my altars and everything, but there was one spirit who would not leave, and this spirit was the French guy that I was talking about last week.
The French guy, yes.
and he just wouldn't leave. And he manifested like physically right in front of me, and he would just be constantly talking to me, constantly. And
the French guy was supposed to be your brother in one of your many previous lives,
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it just got to a point where I felt like I would lose my own mind, because I just constantly see him, I constantly hear him.
Mm-hmm.
He's constantly telling me to do things, give him offerings, you know, light a candle for him, do something for him. So
he actually demanded for all these.
Yeah.
And what happens if you stop giving offerings?
I did stop giving offerings, and that's when he got kind of more angry and more animated in the way that he would ask me for things or talking at me.
Did he attack you?
He didn't attack me. He would just stand there and just kind of scream and shout.
Oh wow.
So
did you give in?
No.
You just stopped giving offerings to him. Okay.
So then I tried to get rid of him,
Mm-hmm.
the way that the black magic practices tell you to do, but that didn't work. So I was wondering, why is it not working? So then I tried various other ways of trying to get rid of him. Like I went to you remember last week I was telling you about my friend who lived down the road. Her mother was a Wiccan practitioner.
Wiccan, yeah.
So I went to her to see if she could do something using her practice to help me get rid of this spirit. So she tried, but she couldn't get rid of it. Then, because I've been brought up in a Hindu background, I tried to do various Hindu prayers and fire pujas and things like that. Nothing was able to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Then one day I was randomly on YouTube, don't know what I was watching, but a video appeared on the sidebar, and it was a video of Sami Rinpoche giving one of his teachings. So for some reason I clicked on it and I watched it for about 5 minutes, and then I thought, oh, okay, this guy is kind of interesting. He's talking about spirituality, so I saved the link.
Okay.
So about 3 or 4 weeks later, I came back to the video and watched it.
Okay.
And then for everything that Sami Rinpoche was saying made a lot of sense.
Okay.
So then I started watching more of the videos, and then started reading the blog, samirinpoche.com. And then I started doing Satra practice.
Satra.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I started doing Lama Sokabra's practice with Satra practice.
Who taught you that?
It was on the blog. It was on the blog. And then I realized that whenever I did Satrap's mantra or his practice and Lama Tsongkhapa, the volume of his voice lowered.
Okay.
So I thought, hang on a minute, this is the first time that I've done anything that has actually had an effect on this particular spirit. So I kept doing it. Then I contacted Kechara. The first person I had contact with was Pastor Piao
Okay.
and Ben Kui.
Okay.
And then they told me that Sami Rinpoche had a very old time student living in London. So I met up with him,
Okay.
and then every couple of weeks we would do Satrap Puja together.
All right.
And then one day I had some time off work, I had to take leave, and I was wondering where to go, so he suggested coming to Malaysia. So I came to Malaysia for 10 days.
Who suggested?
Keng Nam.
King Nam suggested. Okay.
And came to Malaysia for 10 days, and basically just spent those 10 days volunteering in various departments around Kechara to see what it was about. The very last day, I heard that Sami Rinpoche would like to meet me.
Yeah.
So I was taken to La Drang, or Rinpoche's personal household,
Yeah.
and Rinpoche came down the stairs, and then he sat there, and then he just started talking to me, and then he kind of held out his hand and said, "Don't tell me your problem." So I thought, okay, I'm not going to tell Rinpoche my problem. At this time, the spirit is still there. It's still next to me.
All right.
It's still talking. And any time
the spirit was talking to you with Rinpoche there.
with Rinpoche there,
What was he saying?
get out. Get out.
Oh.
Don't stay here. This man is not good. You know, this man is going to hurt you. He's going to do something to you. Don't stay here.
Oh wow.
And so Rinpoche's sitting in his chair and I was sitting on my chair, and then he just kind of looks, and the space he looks at, I realized that he's looking at this spirit. So I thought, okay, Rinpoche has some sort of clairvoyance, because not many people can see this particular spirit. And then anything the spirit said, Rinpoche kind of turned around to me and said, the spirit is saying this to you now, and he's doing this, and he's standing here, and he's doing this with his hands. And I was like, okay, Rinpoche can see exactly what I see. He can hear exactly what I hear. So kind of instantly I felt that I could trust Rinpoche with whatever advice that he would give me.
Okay.
So Rinpoche asked me what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I want to be free of this particular spirit. So Rinpoche said, okay, he will give me a practice to do. And so he asked for his divination dice. And so Rinpoche started doing divination to see which practice would be most beneficial in this case. The last time that Rinpoche threw his dice down, he didn't look at the dice, he was looking at me. And then he said, oh, the dice comes out that you should do Singdongma. So Rinpoche gave me the mantra and prayer to Singdongma, which I started to do.
Okay.
And over time, what happened is when I was doing Singdongma's prayer, this particular spirit, his voice calmed down a lot to the point where I couldn't hear his voice anymore. So I could still see him, and he was still talking, he was still very exaggerated with his movements, but I couldn't hear his voice anymore.
Okay.
Then over time...
Although he was still next to you.
Although he was still next to me.
Alright.
Then over time, as I kept doing Singdongma's mantra and prayer every single day, whenever I saw him, I would see that his hands were now bound with chains, like he was handcuffed.
All of a sudden.
And that carried on for a couple of weeks. And then later on, I saw that his hands were bound by his side now. So he's handcuffed, and he was also wrapped with chains.
Oh wow. Which he never had before. Before your Singdoma practice.
Correct.
Okay.
And then by that time I'd already moved back I've gone back to the UK. And before I went back, Rinpoche told me that I should come to Malaysia once a year to volunteer at Kechara House. So a couple of months passed, not many, I think about 3 or 4 months. Then I decided, okay, I've got some more free time. I'm going to go back to Malaysia to volunteer. So then I came here to Malaysia, went to volunteer in KH, in the education department.
Okay.
And then I stayed.
Mm-hmm.
So volunteer turned into full-time, turned into...
Oh, so you never went back?
Never went back.
The second time that you came?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And you're still doing your Singdoma?
Still doing my Singdoma practice.
And where is the spirit now?
The spirit now... Okay. More of the story. After I came to Malaysia, Rinpoche said it would be good for me to get blessed by Dorje Shugden in trance.
Okay.
So there was one time where Chojala was taking trance of Dorje Shugden, and obviously I was in the queue of people to get blessed to receive Dorje Shugden's blessing.
And Chojala is?
Chojala is the oracle of Dorje Shugden.
The oracle of Dorje Shugden, and the oracle actually came to Malaysia?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was and he took trance in Wisdom Hall here in Kechara Forest Retreat.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Yeah. And as we were kind of waiting in line, and I walked up to Dorje Shugden, he took his drink and he poured it on the floor.
Okay.
And after that, he called me up. So I went to him, and then he was blessing people in different ways. At that point, I could still see the spirit. The spirit was still with me, per se.
Next to you?
Next to me. But he was bound. He couldn't move, and I couldn't hear him.
Okay.
So Dorje Shugden, the way that Dorje Shugden blessed me is he came and he put his hand, and he literally did this. When he did that, the spirit that was here got thrown back so far that I can't see him.
Oh wow. So he kind of like repelled.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so now I can't actually see him. he's still there. But Rinpoche said he's like 5 kilometers away.
Okay.
So the connection was loosened quite a bit by Dorje Shugden. So then later on, Rinpoche explained that when Dorje Shugden threw his drink on the floor, he was basically actually giving the spirit the drink, and he was to make him happy.
Okay.
At the same time, he was telling the spirit that if you ever come near Pastor Niral, you will have me to deal with.
Okay.
So,
Alright.
yeah. So now the spirit is no longer right in front of me. It's so far back that I can't see it.
And do you feel him at all?
If I open myself up, and then I can still feel him a little bit.
What do you mean by open yourself up?
Make myself more open to non-physical things. Because I think in your case...
How do you do that?
It's kind of a relaxation.
You just calm your mind?
You calm your mind.
And where do you focus?
Usually I focus on something in front of me.
So it's just calming your mind?
Calming my mind, and then what will happen is if I'm saying focusing like in the middle spot on the table, focus my mind, and then the periphery of my vision goes a bit
Further.
yeah, a bit further and a bit fuzzy, and then I can start feeling things.
Yeah.
But as I've been doing the practice of Singdongma, I've noticed that it's also harder for me to do that. So, which
Harder for you to do what?
open myself up,
So you no longer sense as much.
which is something that I wanted. I don't want to be seeing things constantly. So, it's something that I wanted. And Rinpoche said that if you ask that of Singdongma while you're doing her practice,
Mhm.
she will help you in that as well.
To stop seeing all these.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. Elaine asks, since Chinese 7th month is nearing now, and the place I'm staying and working at is really famous for paranormal stories, not too far away from Kechara. Does Pastor Niral recommend doing any prayers to lessen experiencing paranormal occurrence?
You can engage in the practice of Dorje Shugden on a daily basis. That practice is, Dorje Shugden's practice is known for his protection. And if you engage in it on a daily practice, he will be able to protect you from supernatural occurrences, from spirit harm. It's best to do it anyway on a daily practice. It's the practice here in Kechara for everyone. Not just for protection, but to remove obstacles and create good conditions. But Dorje Shugden himself, that particular practice is very, very good.
Okay, so do they need to do the entire prayer, or can they just do, is there a shorter version, or can they just do the mantras?
So usually in Kechara, for people who are practicing Buddhism, we have the Diamond Path, which is the full daily sadhana of Dorje Shugden. If you can't do that, you can actually there is a shorter prayer written by Rinpoche, which is on the blog, which is about a page long, less than a page, and then with that you can do the mantra.
Okay.
And if that is still too much or still too long, just doing the mantra, but consistently and on a daily basis is very good.
And how many mantras would you recommend to recite every day?
Again, it's up to the individual, but if you're just reciting mantra, at least one mala, which is 108.
108 times?
108
at
times.
least.
At least.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I hope that helps Elaine. Okay. Are there any more questions for Pastor Niral? Since we're talking about the 7th month. I don't see anything yet. Okay, great. So, are there any other experiences that you've had, when you're in Kechara? Any other paranormal experiences that you've had? That you want to share with all of us? Exciting ones, yeah.
Exciting ones. Exciting ones. Oh, I remember a couple of episodes ago you were talking with Pastor Jinai about experiences in LA.
Yes.
and there was that there was that spirit that didn't like you
Where?
in Lara.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. That spirit was, I remember you talking about it. That spirit, I kind of knew where it lives. It lived in the basement.
Yes, that's what Pastor Janai said.
And there was a boiler in the basement, and one time the boiler went out.
Mm-hmm.
So me and another Ladrang staff member, we went down there to try and fix the boiler. So as soon as they opened the door, I saw him.
What did you see?
It was a man who was kind of a shadowy. It wasn't a shadow person, not
Okay.
like last week, but it was a man. But because it was very dark inside, it kind of looked like he was a shadow. And there was quite a lot of things in the basement,
Yeah.
so we had to kind of like, we went into it, and then we were kind of walking around because the boiler's like right at the back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of see him, and then I just turn around and walk straight back out.
Why?
Because he,
Why? And you let the Ladrang staff actually continue walking.
Yes.
That's very nice of you.
Yeah, he kind of continued walking towards the boiler, and he got to the boiler and he turned around and he was like, "Pastor Niral, where did you go?" And I was like standing at the door. "I'm just going to wait outside for a little while." So he was, he was kind of like, what, why are you outside? You need to come in and help me. I was like,
Yeah.
"No, I it's too stuffy, I can't breathe." Because I didn't want to freak him out so that the boiler wouldn't get fixed.
And what happened then? Nothing happened.
He managed to fix the boiler and he walked out, and then I told him, and then he never went down there again.
I didn't know that it was in the... I went in the boiler, but I didn't see it.
He was in the gift room at the time.
And it used to come up
To the gift room.
to the gift room,
Yes.
like from the window. It like came up
Yes.
from the outside and then used to come in.
Yes, to the gift room, and then
And
sometimes
St.
to the bathroom.
yeah.
St. Paul's bathroom.
Yeah.
So it would go St. Paul's bathroom, and then across the corridor to the gift room, back and forth, back and forth. But it was a gift room that was exceptionally, like, cold, and it has that chill every time you go in, no matter how hot it is outside.
Yep.
It's that constant chill, and you know it's not a good chill, because I like a cool place, but not that kind of chill that it gives you that very uneasy feeling. So okay, I didn't know. I only heard it from Pastor Janai that it was something there, because I've always gone there to put stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I never felt anything though. It's okay, interesting. Okay, we do have more questions. Freon asks, when a person got black magic, normally the person will get another medium to bind this spirit. Question is, how long this medium or god can bind the black magic spirit? And will the master know the person find another help, and what the master normally do?
Okay, so I think the first part of the question is, if you have a spirit attack, people actually go to a
If
medium.
you experience a black magic, so what you're saying is, if you experience black magic done on you, so usually you yourself will actually hire another person
Yeah.
who will actually help you with this, to bind the spirit
Correct.
that is attacking you because of the black magic.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so how long can this medium or this master bind this spirit?
It depends
That is-
on the master themselves.
Okay.
Some can only bind it for a short amount of time,
Okay.
between a couple of months to a couple of years. Stronger masters can actually bind it until they themselves die.
Okay. And then what happens after they die?
Once they die, then the spirit is released.
Oh, okay.
There's various ways of binding a spirit, but usually it's bound into an object. In this case, it is bound into a particular object. So the master will keep this object with them. So they'll bind the spirit into this object and they'll keep it with them. So you'll see that people who practice things like black magic, or even these masters who supposedly help to cure black magic, will have items in their house that have spirits inside them or attached to them.
Okay.
So as long as that object is contained, it's not broken or anything, then the spirit will be bound inside, depending on the power of the master.
Okay.
But when the master passes away, usually what happens is that spirit can get released from this particular object, or it can stay bound to the object and then is passed to the next person who, so that master's disciple or whatever,
Oh,
will kind of inherit these particular objects.
okay. And how? And she asks, how can puja help on this?
Okay. In the case of,
I guess with black magic.
Oh,
if
okay.
you are experiencing black magic.
Yeah, pujas and various prayers and mantras help in 2 ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are afflicted by spirit disturbances or black magic, it is because you have the karma to be afflicted by.
Yeah.
So if, for example, if you were in the same position as me, and you didn't have a karmic connection to this Frenchman, then he wouldn't have attached himself onto you.
Mm-hmm.
But because I had a karmic connection, I have the potential for him to latch onto me in this life. How puja helps in this is it helps to purify the karma
Mm-hmm.
so that you don't have to experience it.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, it also generates merit. So merit is a force, it's a spiritual force, and it's always positive,
Yeah.
which if you have enough of, can overpower your negative karma until you do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, puja helps in two ways. First, it helps to purify the karma that causes whatever is happening.
Yeah.
And two is to generate that merit that can overpower that negative karma.
Okay.
So you no longer have to feel the effects of black magic or spirit disturbance.
Okay. I hope that explains. Yeah. Free on. And Bradley asks, what visualizations should be done while doing the DS mantra?
Oh, okay. There is specifically for protection, there
Mhm.
is when you visualize Doja Shugden in front of you, you visualize red light coming from Doja Shugden's heart, coming to the top of your head and then filling the inside of your body. And then it radiates out of your body
Mm-hmm.
until it's a kind of sphere around you, like you're inside a ball.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're reciting Doja Shugden's mantra, you need to think strongly that you're receiving Doja Shugden's energy of protection, and to keep that visualization of that red light going into you, pervading out, and then protecting you within this ball. And then nothing...
It's like a force sphere.
Yeah. So nothing negative can actually come into this or affect you in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And as you build up this visualization with your recitation, you will build up very, very strong energy of protection.
Okay.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is from Doja Shugden.
Okay. And this is what you need to do every day
This is what you should do.
if
every
you're
day.
susceptible to
To
all sorts of
all
attacks.
sorts of supernatural occurrences, spirit
Okay.
attacks, things like that.
All right, great. That's great to know. Let me see. Adele asks, do you still see the werewolf spirit?
No, I do not.
No more?
No more. Yeah.
When did you stop seeing them?
When I was when I reversed the ritual.
Okay.
So it
there
was
like-
it was only within that like 3 week period that I actually made contact with them, saw them, and then could feel them. And then as the ritual was progressing and I was furthering the ritual, they got stronger and stronger and stronger. But then when I started reversing the ritual, they went further and further away, because werewolf spirits are known to be they don't like people. So
Okay.
they don't usually hang around or go near people. They're quite wild. They're quite feral in nature.
And
so
what do you usually do when you invoke them to come? What were you supposed to do with them?
Oh, that was the one that I wanted to get revenge on somebody.
And they would actually
And
bite them?
it would have just been probably ended up with them being extremely hurt physically,
really?
or maybe even cause them to die
Oh,
in
wow.
horrific manners, accidents or things like that.
And they actually look like werewolves as we see in the movies, or slightly different.
Slightly different. I mean, they kind of look like wolves, but not like.
Do they have like legs, like human legs, or they look like wolves?
I mean, they look like werewolves. So there's like wolves that stand on 2 feet and that walk, but
Oh,
they can
literally.
also like run like
That's
a wolf.
just like in the movies.
Yeah,
So it's just like in the movies then.
but they don't like. I don't know how to say it. Their fur
Uh huh.
is kind of scaly.
Scaly
Yeah.
fur. Okay.
So it's not.
It's
not-
like dry hair.
dry.
What's, what's scaly fur? Well,
Okay, so imagine like
it's like squiggly hair.
squiggly hair. I don't know how to. Okay, you know when you see a snake
Yeah.
and when it's sliding around
Yeah.
and the sun shines off
It's
the
scaly.
scaly,
Yeah.
you see that
Oh, on the hair. You
Yeah,
see the
yeah.
scales on.
yeah, you see the scales on the hair and
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Really? And everything else looks just like a werewolf.
yeah, but their teeth are like
The fangs,
fangs. Like all their teeth are like pointed. They're not like
just like in the movies.
just like in the movies.
See,
but
so
they have more teeth because usually when you see werewolves in the movie they have like top fangs and then the bottom
Uh-huh.
fangs like a normal wolf.
Uh-huh.
But these have like a full set of teeth that
And they're all pointy.
all pointy.
That reminds me of one of these movies that actually showed some I don't know, some monsters or some spirits that had like thousands of like, you know, very sharp teeth that just goes like that.
Yeah,
That's what it looks like?
Yeah,
So I guess in the movies that's where somebody must have seen these spirits and then actually did a movie out of it.
Mhm.
That's what I think. Because a lot of spirits that we see in real life actually exist in the movie. So somebody must
Yeah,
have seen it
yeah,
and then
true.
just kind of, right? Okay. Wow, that's really exciting. See werewolves. I wonder what I'll do if I see a werewolf spirit.
get your
I've
phone
never
out and
seen
take a picture.
Yeah, I get my phone out and take a picture. Yes. Okay, Freon asks, when the spirit bind by the master to harm people, will the spirit get the karma of harming the person? When the spirit bind by the master to harm people,
It
will
goes.
the spirit get the karma of harming the person?
Yes, but not as much. Because, for example, if I send a spirit after you,
Mm-hmm.
because there's karma involved with everything, this spirit will get the karma of harming you.
Yeah.
But if another master manages to bind the spirit before it can harm you, it will still get the karma because its intention is there to harm you.
Okay.
And it created a situation now, karmically speaking, where it is bound
Yeah.
by somebody else.
Yeah.
But its intention was still there. So even if it doesn't finish harming you how it wanted to harm you,
Yeah.
it still would have in some way, because that would be the only way that you knew
Yeah.
that you were being attacked by a spirit.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have like a full karma, but it would still have generated negative
Because
karma.
of the intention.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's because of intention. Great. Hi May, thank you very much for tuning in. Freon, that means if we use puja to solve black magic, then we are more safe than if we were to ask a master to help bind.
Oh,
So puja
Yeah.
here refers to Buddhist ritual, right?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Freon asks, other than black magic that uses spirit to bind and harm, how about elements, other beings like animal spirits? How do we know which type of black magic is put on a person?
That one you would need to find on a normal, everyday, non-Buddhist level. You would have to find a master who has experiences with a lot of spirits or a lot of different systems to actually know what sort of spirit is
Mhm.
attacking you or something. From a Buddhist perspective, you can, if a master has spiritual attainments, they would have some form of clairvoyance. So using that form of clairvoyance, they could easily tell you what kind of spirit is attacking you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Batku, okay, there's a question. There's a question from Batku. In my country, Mongolia, since 1990, many shamans popped up and still pop up. So my question is, how can I identify them as a real shaman or fake shaman? Because it is difficult to believe all of them.
It would depend on your experiences with shamans.
Okay.
Also, if you know a real shaman, you can
Okay.
ask them, is that one a real shaman? This is one way of doing it.
Okay.
It's very difficult to know who is real and who is not from our level, because we don't have clairvoyance, we
Yeah.
can't see. That's why usually it is advised within Buddhist practice to just rely on the Buddhas
Yeah.
and the enlightened masters, because
Mhm.
you know that kind of there's nothing to be in two minds about when it comes to the Buddhas.
Okay.
Because a Buddha is a Buddha, they're always going to help, they're never going to harm. So yeah, it's very difficult to tell.
Yeah. Well, personally, I would not go to see a shaman personally, because because they are invoking beings that are not enlightened, right? So even in Malaysia, we do have local shamans, and again, you don't know what it's all about. So, and I've also heard stories whereby you actually do not have any spirit disturbance, but after meeting that shaman, the shaman says, "Oh, do you know that you actually have a spirit in your home or in your office?" And you go, "No, I never realized." And then after visiting him or her, you start experiencing paranormal things in your home or your office all of a sudden, because
Yep.
in your mind you say, "Oh, perhaps I'm starting to notice." So then you go back to the shaman, and then the shaman says, "Okay, I can help you with a fee." And then you go, and then he helps you, and then you notice, "Oh, it's gone." And you go, "Oh, wow, he's really good." But the thing is, the twist of the story is, it was him
Yep.
that actually, summoned a spirit to go to your house and kind of give you that paranormal experience. And then at the same time, he was the one who actually removed them. So it's actually a trick. So they're actually conning you to say, "Okay, see, I've helped you." And there are many such cases.
You'll be surprised.
Uh-huh.
It is a trick. Is a trick
Yeah,
that is used a lot.
a lot of time, right?
A
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Especially people who practice black magic,
Uh-huh.
or even people who don't practice black magic but some form of magic.
Yeah.
They use that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's why, Batku, I never go to shamans like this. Yeah, because there's just too many stories, and and it'll just complicate your life unnecessarily. I'd rather go to well, for myself, I was lucky enough to have met Tenrinpoche, whom I have, and because of the first time when I met Tenrinpoche, I asked a lot of questions, and after cross-examining and listening to Tenrinpoche and understanding what Tibetan Buddhism is all about and what Rinpoche is all about, because I have no idea at that time, and I felt more comfortable, and of course the history with Tenrinpoche, and I went to the monastery, so he was the real McCoy, so to speak, and of course Rinpoche was a highly esteemed Buddhist master, and because of that, then that's where you feel safe, because there are many people out there that portray themselves as so and so, and self-professed reincarnate lamas and all that, and it just complicates your life unnecessarily. Yeah. That's my personal view. After being Buddhist for what 12 years already. Yeah, because I myself am very cynical, so I question until I'm fully convinced. And yeah, so I wouldn't just waste time meddling. So like remember with all my stories, because I kind of dabbled in all this new age,
Yep.
masters, and even though they're world renowned, I really regretted it. Really regret because yes, because they are. It's just like trying to climb Mount Everest. They themselves are trying to figure out, and they are trying to, and you want to, and you want to go to the top, get to the top along with them. So it's like the blind leading the blind. So it doesn't make sense. So I really learned it the hard way. Yeah. Batu says, "Wow, thanks. I will not." Yes, please don't do that. In Mongolia, there are very renowned Buddhist temples. Go and visit them. I think you will find your answers there. Okay, I think time is almost up. We have to wrap up. And there are a few more questions very quickly. Caroline asks, how about positive energy? Having positive mind, can it dispel black magic? Invoke energy from Buddhas.
Having a positive mind can help with when you are attacked by black magic or have spirit disturbances. The reason being is because one of the ways that it kind of manifests negatively is when you yourself are overly emotional, when you yourself don't have a stable mind. It allows the kind of negative energy to actually harm you even more. It kind of, so if you get sad or you get upset, it allows this particular spirit or the whatever is sent to you to kind of use that, and it will amplify that and make it worse.
Yeah.
So one of the ways, when if you are being afflicted and you're doing practices such as Doji Shugden to help get rid of it, is also to have a positive and calm mind, and that it can be achieved through things like breathing meditation, or just thinking positively instead of concentrating on negative things, to concentrate on positive things.
Yeah.
It does boost that, because it mentally it doesn't allow the spirit a leeway or a doorway to grab onto something that it can use.
Yeah, but usually if the person is affected by black magic, they would need help.
Oh yes.
Even with a positive mind,
Correct.
It's too late, because that karma has opened up for for them to experience the effects of the black magic.
Right.
So definitely, I would just go to a nearby temple that has a qualified master to actually help you. Yeah, instead of going to a shaman. Okay, that's what I would do personally. Okay, last question. Bradley asks that all these spirits within the Hungry Ghost realm. I guess he's referring to all the werewolves and all that, the nature spirits and all that you were talking about.
Yes, they would all be in the Hungry Ghost realm.
Hungry Ghost realm?
Yeah.
Okay. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed your time with us this evening. So thank you very much, Pastor Niral. And before I say goodbye, I need to acknowledge one of our sponsors. So today's program is made possible by our sponsor, Ong Chin Wei. Ong Chin Wei. Thank you very much. If you like our program, do make a contribution, because it will actually help us sustain with all our online programs. Yeah. And somebody mentioned about the 7th lunar month. That is the Ulaanbaatar festival. It's coming up on August the 19th. August 19th till September 16th. Yes, 16th. So if you want to make offerings, you can actually look us up online, and we have all these packages that you can do that will actually that will enable you to make offerings to your ancestors. It's actually in Chinese it's called the Hungry Ghost Festival, but for Buddhists we call it the Ulaanbaatar festival. So yes, so do look up. There are a lot of details online in kecharaforestretreat.com. You can actually look it up and find all the information there. All right, so thank you very much, and I will see you next week on Thursday. Bye bye.